Hey, welcome to Super Social Club. I'm Jeremy.
This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob.
Welcome to the Whisky Rant podcast.
It's a little crusty.
It's frustrating.
And it's going to be a little bit of a rant.
I don't understand it. I don't know why.
Some sort of injustice.
Anyway, end rant.
Hello and welcome back to the Whisky Rant podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Rob.
Tonight we are joined by our special guest, Don from Last Straw Distillery, a local distillery here in Ontario.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
And you brought us some whiskey tonight.
I did.
Tell us what you got here, because you guys do like a kind of unique style with a lot of your whiskeys.
Yeah, so, well, I know Rob brought out the Rice and Rye, which I know he's tried before, and I think you've had it as well, Jeremy.
Yes, really interesting using rice. And we'll get into that.
Yeah,
distilling
that's,
rice.
You know, everybody asks, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So tonight we actually brought the 100% rice.
Okay.
I'm excited to try this one, actually. I haven't tried this one yet.
Yeah, no, we get a lot of really good response. We did Whiskey Ottawa with it, and it's funny because you pour, a small sample for someone, and they try it out and they go, it's almost like the first sip is confusion,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then the second sip is wonderment, and the third sip is acceptance.
Yeah, that's probably the stages I went through when I first tried this. Because Rob was like, "What? Guess the grain." I'm like, "I don't know, barley." He's like, "No." I'm like, "You're never gonna get it," and you wouldn't.
No, it's
so,
really
I'm very excited to try this like straight rice.
Okay, and then the second one I brought tonight was our Single Malt, and the thing about our Single Malt, so our original Single Malt was really the stout whiskey we had. And
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Yep.
That is a Single Malt, but I didn't call it that because it was based on a stout beer mash.
Right.
And I wanted to push that. This is all two-row malted barley. However, it's not like a Scottish style. It's very different. And this one's actually has a rum finish with one of our rum barrels.
Okay. Oh, cool.
And I struggled to get a single malt that I was happy with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say I'm not happy with this one. It just didn't go the direction that I was looking for.
Okay.
And, there are single malts out in Canada that have actually made me rethink what I'd like to do with my single malts. And we can get into that before I give kudos to another distiller.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you guys for a little bit first before we talk about anybody else.
And then the final one is our Cask 13 Rye. It's cask strength. It's 63%. This one was actually laid down, actually by now, 6 years ago, on my son's birthday, Brandon, who also co-distills with me at the distilleries.
Yeah. Yeah, so the rye is kind of the one that you guys have been focused on from day one, right?
From true day one,
yeah.
I wanted to be a single malt distiller.
Okay, interesting.
And then Mike Hook, one of our founding partners, was really pushing us to do the rye.
Okay.
The problem was we didn't have the equipment to do on the grain work.
Right.
So Brandon came up with the idea of taking a couple of vessels and kind of MacGyvering everything and a little bit of welding that didn't go well and a lot of epoxy. We created a mash tun that we could do off the grain.
Okay.
Or sorry, on the grain work. And we were able to get our first cask of rye out doing that, but it was literally the mashes were 50 gallons at a time.
Okay.
So very small runs. And then we actually bought a unit to fit on top of that to strip distill it so that we could put it into our finishing still.
So everyone talks about how difficult rye grain is to work with. Would you say it's more or less as far as malting barley is concerned versus distilling rye?
Rye will bite you in the arse quicker than you can imagine.
Anything else?
Yeah. It's the most ignorant grain to work with.
And is it so because it's so gummy? What it comes up to equipment?
No,
what is the issue?
The expansion in the fermentation, you've really got to be cautious how much headspace you give it.
Okay.
You got to give it a lot more than you expect.
Right.
And it's not uncommon to come in, even if you've given it the headspace, and find foam all over the floor that becomes extremely sticky.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then it takes a while to scrub that up, and then you're just upset that you lost that much sugar.
The process, I'm sure, feeling out the process and getting it right is painstakingly hard.
We think we've got it down. It took us quite a while.
Yeah.
In our early days, we used to ferment in 200-liter plastic drums with one of those little airlocks that you would get at the wine store.
Okay.
And one time, I guess one of them got plugged up with the phone, and it blew out about 25% of the wash all over the place. And we've had a couple that have just gone crazy up on the walls in the early stages.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
So
been fun,
rye.
but we think we've got it down now.
And Canadian rye. You know, you guys source from some local farms
Yep.
around Ontario and other parts of Canada as well.
We've just started working in other parts of Ontario.
Okay.
So we have some stuff from the Ottawa Valley area.
Yeah.
And we're actually trying to start this program where we're working with small farmers doing regenerative work, you know, and no-till work. So we've got some rye, we've got some other grains coming as well. That'll be announced shortly. Some of the first things we did with that were red and white corn.
Okay.
So that's
Nice.
coming as well.
That's very cool. Yeah, because this run you didn't do a corn, which you often do. A corn.
I have a corn, I didn't bring it.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't bring it. I was just looking at the three things I wanted to bring because I'm very proud of the rice. I'm extremely proud of the rye. I want your take on the single malt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
before
want
we
an honest
started,
take on
yeah,
it.
off camera, you were like, you know, the single malt's maybe not where I want it, but you just like give me an honest opinion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
tell me straight up what you guys think. Where are we gonna start with? by the
Well,
way?
I already started tasting the rice.
the rice.
I was drawn to the rice, and honestly, again, that says rice on the bottle, and you like, it's crazy because it does not. I don't even know what I would think a rice should taste like, but that's not what I would think it tastes like. It's very similar, somewhere between a roasted barley kind of note and a like light, low spice rye kind of note.
Yeah.
It's delicious. I really, really like it.
So tell us about rice and like why and what do you get with it?
So
And what kind of rice is it, by the
it's
way?
Argentinian long grain brown rice
Okay.
from Cordoba, Argentina.
Okay.
And my understanding, the reason it came in was Mark Hayhoe, that owned K2 Milling at the time, had an order come in for this specific rice. And I guess when it got here, somehow the order fell through. So he had it and nowhere for it to go. So instead of turning it into animal feed, he called me and said, "Can you make something from it?"
Huh.
I said, "Sure, send it over.
Yeah,
I'll try anything."
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I brought it in, treated it like I treated the rye, and one thing it did do, it didn't explode like the rye, but it really bubbled up, like huge bubbles,
Right.
Interesting.
almost like soapy
Yeah.
when I was fermenting.
Right.
Wow.
But yeah, it worked out. The yield wasn't what I would have gotten if it was, let's say, for a ton of rice. It didn't really yield like a ton of rye would. But it was decent enough to do that full cask of rice and blend it with the rye for this cask.
And so what kind of barrel is this matured in?
So that was in...
Rechar American Oak
Yep.
and X wine barrel.
Yep. So it was an X wine that had been milled and recharred in Niagara by DRM Recoup. And they recouped that barrel for us. It was about a number 3 char.
Okay.
And that's where it went, and it sat down. And I was actually focused more on the rice and rye. I wasn't sure what I expected out of the rice, but we're very, very happy with it.
And it noses to me, like if I was completely blind, I didn't know what it was, I would probably guess like a bourbon finished
Yeah.
in some kind of barrel, right? Like a sherry barrel, or this is obviously a wine barrel. But yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's got a lot of sweetness to it.
Yeah, that's got to be like the number 3 char on the barrel that's giving it that like really caramel forward.
Right.
Right.
And I think the thing is, if it... I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think if it was a brand new American oak barrel, they'd probably pour more vanilla out of it.
Okay.
But being a rechar, I think you get more of that caramel note. That's just our experience in the few barrels we've done.
Yeah.
But we find that you get a lot more caramel out of the rechars.
I mean, the nose is great. Super sweet, both
Yeah.
nose and palate,
Absolutely, you get a lot of sweetness.
right? Way more, like, I just would not expect that from a rye. I mean, from a rice. It just, like, I don't know why. I maybe because I associate rice with savory food. You know, like, I mean, there's rice pudding and stuff like that, but but that's also corn, right? Like, for the most part, you have your corn with, like, savory foods.
Right.
So this rice is like a wild rice. like maybe I'll throw up a picture if I can find one of exactly what it looks like. But what does like the grain actually look like?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I've
Yeah,
not
'cause
gone
you guys-
far into it.
You guys get it milled before.
It comes in like flour to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do a different type of milling, so it's not hammer mill, it's not roller milled, it's air sweat pulverized.
Okay.
So it's a different type of milling where there's actually no heat inserted into the grain. It's actually extracted in the process.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't heat the flour before you get it. So
Okay.
it stays at a lower temperature.
I see.
Whether that has a difference, Mark would say yes, it does. So
Yeah.
would Brian that owns K2 now. They would say yes, it does, and we should all go to them for milling. And we stick with them 100%.
I love the nose on this. It is so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everything you want a bourbon to be, and then it overachieves that by being a little different.
Yeah.
In like its unique
It
quality.
it is like a bourbon that's been like finished in multiple barrels. It seems,
Yeah.
right? Like it's got this sweetness. It's like Joseph Magnus, right? Because they do like multiple finishes in Cabernet Sauvignon barrels and cognac barrels and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think where this wins than the average bourbon for me is that finish is just, it's incredibly light and like mouth coating and buttery at the same time. You know what I mean? Sweet, nothing off-putting, nothing harsh, nothing, there's no heat really. Like it's like really easy drinking. This is, if anybody's playing the drinking game, they got to take a shot now. This is, as our boy James would say, super crushable.
Just crushable. And bottling strength of this one?
Wow, I haven't looked
This
at it.
I looked at it.
45.
Yeah, 45.
45%.
Yeah. So I should say that all of your bottles are unchill filtered, no added color.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only way we do whiskey.
Yeah. So this one's 45%. You're still getting all the benefits of the unchill filtration, no added color, and there's some nice color to this one.
Yeah,
This one got some nice color.
And age on this?
5.5.
Okay.
So far, the oldest whiskeys we put out.
The oldest whiskeys you put out so far is 5.5. And you guys have been open, what, about a decade, yeah?
Yeah, we've been
10, 11
incorporated for a decade. Operating, we started distilling in 2015.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Should we move on to the single malt?
Let's
Anything
go to the
else?
single
Yeah.
malt.
Okay.
So
I better check the ABV so I know. Yeah, 46. Okay.
So the single malt, when you said you originally wanted to be a single malt distiller,
Yes.
what was your vision for that? Was there a particular distillery from maybe like Scotland that you were like, I want to make whiskey that's something like that? Was there a
So-
vision for it?
I remember when I was researching for the distillery, I was drinking some Belvenis, some Doublewood.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember wanting to buy a Bruichladdich but couldn't get over the turquoise container.
The classic laddie.
The classic laddie.
Well, it was back then, it was the Laddie 10.
Oh, right.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
And I remember finding one day, I said, okay, screw it, I'm going to buy it. So I went and bought the Laddie 10, and I remember thinking, my God, this is what God drinks. This is so good. If I could make this, that's what I wanted to make. Now, flash forward to today, the classic Laddie to me is not as good as the Laddie 10 was.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Makes
And
sense.
I was fortunate one time in 2019 to be in the UK and bought a cast strength Laddie 10.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And that was incredible, but I didn't bring it home. I drank it in London.
Didn't make it back with
You
you.
didn't make
But
it
that's
back.
kind of what my vision was.
Okay, so that's the profile you're maybe trying
And
to...
we didn't get anywhere with that.
Right.
Well, I mean, so I don't know all the ins and outs of fermentation, distilling, even malting, because like a lot of these Scottish distilleries, they bring it to the malting floor in their own distillery, right? Like they not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, I think there's actually not that many malting their own anymore. From what I
You could be right.
understand, I know Balvenie malts their own.
Yeah, Balvenie.
I know Lefroy malts their own.
Springbank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know some of the newer ones are actually doing some cool micro malting. And there's some of that going on in Canada as well. As far as the big guys, I'm not sure. And what I'm finding, and I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just saying I'm finding that a lot of the Scottish distilleries seem to be melding into one flavor profile.
Okay.
And I don't get to drink a lot because, nobody, and when you own a distillery, people don't really want to buy you whiskey.
Yeah, that makes sense.
and you really don't want to go and spend a lot of money on whiskey because I could just buy my own, go home and
Right.
get that.
Yeah, of course.
But I've been finding a lot of them are the same, and I know I get a couple of samples from you, Springbank, and some really cool stuff. And yes, this is the cool stuff that's going on in the Canadian distilleries, like two brewers, Okanagan, Laird of Fintry, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I was able to get 2 bottles of that.
That's
this
right.
year.
Yeah.
And to be fair, those two, especially two brewers, have made me rethink the way I'm doing my single malts.
As far as like the way,
It's
the
the
type of,
process.
okay.
The process. I'm using Ontario and Alberta malted barley. However, I've got to start working off the grain, I think. That's where I got to treat more like a brewery.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do what Two Brewers is doing.
I think that's how they yield that sweetness from their whiskeys, to be honest. I could be wrong.
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
not sure because I haven't done it. I don't
Yeah.
have the equipment to do it right now.
Although I will say your stout single malt had that, like that, it was reminiscent of that kind of flavor
It was
profile.
mashed at a brewery.
Yeah, right.
Off the grain.
Right.
So that's exactly
Yeah,
what we think we need to move to in the barley.
yeah.
So going forward, you're going to be aiming for something between a Laddie 10 and a 2 brewer single malt.
If I could get somewhere between that, yeah.
That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
If I could get an old Laddie 10 and the Two Brewers in London, yeah.
This single malt is phenomenal. I think it's
It's good.
great.
Yeah,
got
it's
this,
very good.
Tropical fruit notes. I'm
On the
getting,
palate, there's a really nice tropical fruit note. Like I really get like a pineapple-y kind of.
Exactly. I'm getting like an underripe banana, a little bit of like a fruit cup syrup. You know, like fruit cups, you get pear,
Yeah.
you get like a little bit like peach in there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
syrup.
Yeah.
I kind of get that on the finish as well. I think it's delicious.
I think like to Last Straw's credit, because of the way you guys house your whiskey and the temperatures you keep your distillery at and all that stuff, I do feel that you guys get older tasting whiskey at a younger age than the average. So like your 5-year-old is like, you know, if you told somebody, hey, this is a 10-year-old whiskey, what do you think? They'll be like, okay, cool, that's a 10-year-old whiskey. When they're trying it, they would believe that, you know?
I know we got that with the stout. A lot of people thought the stout was a 12-year-old whiskey and
Yeah.
it was a 3-year-old.
There you go, right?
We were very happy with that.
And
Yeah.
like I think you guys have talked about this before, but like how you do your cuts and like you're taking like the center of the hearts, right?
Yeah.
And is that super important when you're planning on aging something for not like extended amount of time? Like how important is that?
So it was a philosophy we came up with absolutely no experience, which was the cleaner the spirit going in the barrel, theoretically the barrel shouldn't have to fix the spirit, it should just flavor the spirit.
Right.
Right.
Now, whether we're right about that or not, I don't know, because I didn't have the ability to start sweeping the floor at 8 years old at a distillery and then
Right.
work my way up.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I came into this in my 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did as much reading as I could bear to do because you get to a point where you have saturation of information, so you just have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
But the one thing I realized early on when we buggered up a few runs is it takes a long time for a barrel to fix things.
Yeah.
That's why we have
Sure.
8-year-old whiskey almost,
Yeah.
because the barrel's still fixing it.
Yeah.
So we started to treat everything a little tighter, and Brandon was the one pushing towards that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He would be like, no, cut now, cut now, cut now.
Yeah.
And I would be like, no, I still get
We don't have
cut
enough
now,
yet.
cut
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think he was the impetus to get the theory we did, and he's the reason why the whiskey I think is as good as it is.
Yeah.
He pushed for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked to other distilleries as well that release stuff at a younger age, and they're very adamant about we take very center cuts.
Yeah.
And so maybe that obviously does have a huge impact
Yeah.
on how good the whiskey is at a younger age.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too.
And I think there could be some decent stuff about going 12, 14, 18 years. The problem is that we don't have that time. We have to get revenue going as quick as possible.
Sure.
Yeah, especially in today's market where there's a lot of distilleries out there, a lot of whiskey on the shelf, and in the last couple of years, that, as Ralphie would put it, the purse strings have been tightening across the board.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, even like we've noticed in our small little shop in Vaughan, the amount of sales we're getting for even medium grade whiskey is just dropping. You know, part of it is access to market. We don't get access to the LCBO.
Right.
It's next to impossible to put a whiskey of this age from a small distiller in the LCBO because they'll just kill you on markup and taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've been focusing on the whiskey world, pushing a lot with Instagram, going to shows, trying to get that out there. And we're just not getting the return. So we're at a loss of what to do.
Right.
That's why we're hoping even like what you guys are doing is helping us, and the other channels that we work with too.
Yeah, just getting that exposure out there, because most people just don't know that you guys are,
I
right?
have people in Vaughan that have no clue there's a distillery in Vaughan. There's 3.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I really like the single malt. I think you undersold.
You definitely, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm very critical because I guess I had a vision of what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And it's not that in my brain.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, honestly,
Now I want to drink more of it. So.
I do think that the choice to go rum cask on this one was a wise choice.
Yeah.
It definitely gives it a unique, like, tropical kind of note that I wasn't expecting. So I like
Means I
that.
got to lay more rum down.
Yeah, no, really, really good. And what about sourcing barrels? How do you handle that situation?
So prior to the pandemic, a lot of the barrels we got some new barrels from East Coast Cooperage, I believe, or something to that effect, somewhere upstate New York. We were getting used barrels wherever we could. We would actually piggyback on some of the Stillwater's orders. They'd say, hey, we're pulling up so many barrels, you want some? And I
Okay.
went forward to it.
Nice.
And then I met up with DRM Recoup in Niagara, and they were doing barrels for us. And during the pandemic, like, his business just kind of slowed right down. So I believe Gretzky's actually has his recuperage equipment.
Okay.
So they're working with it there. He's retired from the barrel business, so we've been working with Once Used and some new stuff.
Yeah.
I'd like to find someone to recooper again because I do like what it does.
Yeah.
I just can't venture into recoupering myself.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in the day.
Well, that's it. Exactly. And there are some things that are happening with your distillery right now. I don't know how much you're willing to share.
Oh,
but-
no, that's fine. We had an opportunity to buy a substantial pot still, 7,000 liters.
Nice.
It came with a mash tun, an 8-plate column separate from the pot. I can't even tell you the diameter, but I can't wrap my arms around it. It's huge.
Yeah, it looks big in pictures.
Yeah, and it's actually up in Collingwood at Heretic Spirits.
Okay.
So Heretic originally sourced the still and then kind of changed their business model through the pandemic to a packaging company. And so Scott from Heretic called me one day and said, "Are you interested in the still?"
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's really swinging for the fences, but why not? So we did find an investor that helped us with the capital to get it.
Nice.
So we've got it. We've been doing trial runs on it. We're actually doing a fairly good-sized project with another distillery from the Ottawa area who ended up with a lot of beer in casks that's not being used. So we're going to be distilling that in a joint venture.
Oh, cool.
And then we've done some work with new grains. Like we did a run for another distillery for their next whiskeys.
Okay.
And we've got some corn up there ready to go. The one thing is when you're starting to deal with 7,000 liter capacity,
Yeah.
the costs of 7,000 liters, the chilling you need for 7,000 liters, everything is just that much bigger.
For sure.
So a lot of growing pains. And the next thing is we have to try and get more funding in to be able to make more whiskeys.
Ah, okay.
So that's been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Is there like a plan in place as far as like, because like I know there's a distillery out west that is sourcing like fan funding kind of thing.
So we don't want to go down that road. What we're looking for is to create a system, and we're in the middle of doing that, is to get investment into producing the cask. So whether it's a share structure, whether it's purchasing the cask for your own
Right.
use, we're looking at all those avenues. We're not quite sorted 100% yet.
Okay.
And we also have to be cognizant of legalities and what's right. But we're looking for any opportunities to get that equipment working and get more whiskey being produced. Because one thing I'll tell you, when you're running at that level, it produces a lot of spirit per hour.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Cool. I'm onto the rye now, which is really, really nice. I noticed that the 3 we've tried so far, it seems like the distillate still shines in these whiskeys. Like the casks haven't overpowered any of it at all, and I can kind of see a similarity between all 3. Maturation, how often are you pulling from casks to try stuff to know when it's ready to bottle?
Approximately every 6 months.
Okay.
Some I've forgotten, but like for example, the rice, I completely forgot about the rice. It kind of sat there for a bit.
Because it was just like 102 barrels, right?
There was only the 1 barrel of rice and rye and the 1 barrel of rice,
Okay, yeah.
and I think I didn't get to the rice that was already whiskey.
Okay.
Nice.
And then it was just a question of, because Mark supplied the grain, so it's kind of a joint thing on this one, when to release it. So we ended up deciding, yeah, it's good now, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. Guess the ABV on the rye. Did you already look at it?
No, but you said it was cask strength.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's got to be up there, right?
It's cask strength. It's 63%.
Okay.
But if I had to guess, I wouldn't have said
Drink's
60.
very, very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the finish is super long. Like the finish on this.
I'm still tasting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super, super long and really, really nice. The rye spice, very, very like creamy kind of style. Like it's not like a sharp hit of rye.
Yeah.
It's more kind of like it's bold, but it's subdued. It's not like a prickly hit. It's very, very, it sits nice on your palate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it reminds me of because it doesn't have that like dill style like American kind of rye. It's got something different. Like it's more maybe on the apricot side.
Yeah.
There's something like almost liqueurish to it, like sweet, and I don't know.
It reminds me kind of like a Lot 40 cask strength without the dill.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because those are really heavy on the dill. Like, you get a lot of dill pickle on those Lot 40s. But this, like, you'd have to fight to find a dill note, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we tried to figure this out because all of our rye casks that we've released cask strength have had the same kind of character. And it's more that spicy note. And I don't get the dill.
Yeah.
And, there's other distilleries, for example. If I take a Stillwater's cask strength rye, it's a whole different animal. And we actually buy our rye from the same guy.
Yeah.
So what are we doing different?
Yeah.
And one night when we were in Alberta, we put some calls out to, after quite a few beers, to a couple other distilleries, and I can't remember if it was Steve Lee or somebody said that he was in some sort of symposium where they were talking about this, and it's when you go up in temperature in the mashing that you actually extract those compounds. Now, I don't know this 100%, but one thing's for sure, all of our rye is very high temperature.
Okay.
We mash extremely high, and for rye you don't need to. You can actually mash lower, but we prefer going with a higher heat enzyme and going up. So we think that might be what's giving that spicy note.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can't say 100%, but I'm just going to keep doing it. 'Cause that's what I prefer to drink.
Yeah.
The barrel for this one, is that a new oak charred?
No, that was a rechart as well.
That's a rechart as well. Interesting.
Rechart American.
Because you did get a bunch of new oak in the
Yes.
last few years. Was that? Have any of those come to a whiskey yet, or not quite?
The ones we got, no. There's a couple ones that I called W16. Those are those are in the new oak. The red corn, the white corn are in. There's some rye in the new oak.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to. I mean, some of these guys already know because we posted it when those were going into barrel. Looking forward to those ones. I have high hopes.
And those were really good barrels. They actually worked out quite well.
Yeah.
I'm excited
And
about that
there's
too.
number twos and number threes.
So, sorry,
Right?
just to reiterate, you filled some barrels for Rob, for Whiskey in the
yes,
Six,
we did.
and you've chosen what exactly? Because I forget what you guys did.
So, kind of a spin-off of the first
You
one
did a
that
mash
we
bill the
did.
first time,
Right.
right?
So the first one we did corn, which was I believe 70%.
70, yeah.
Then 20 rye and 10 barley. This time we went 70 corn, 20 wheat,
Yes.
10 barley.
Yeah.
So
So it's a weeder.
It's a weeder.
Both in the oak, one in a 2, one in a 3.
Okay.
yeah, so basically like a Canadian style bourbon.
Right.
If obviously you can't call it that, but
Canadian style, like weird bourbon.
yeah, maybe you guys could
Misspell
put
it,
like
do something.
we can't call this bourbon.
Nah, you know what?
Write it on the bottle.
You know, it's funny. There's a lot of guys that do that, and I think it's cute and I think it's funny.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever did was I did some grappa for somebody. We call it grappa.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's
But
clever.
when it comes to whiskeys, I don't want to do that bourbon spelled differently.
Right.
or,
Yeah.
I don't even want to say bourbon style. I'd just rather not go down that
It's
road.
a Last Straw whiskey. That's all.
Well, it's a whiskey, a Last Straw whiskey in the 6.
There you go.
And how long have these been sitting for?
It's gonna be
It's
two
going to come up to 2 years. I
2
think.
years in July, I think.
So we'll get a poll.
We're halfway there.
Yeah.
We're halfway there.
You're thinking like around 4 years for it?
I don't know. The last
Just
one
depends,
we pulled,
right? You're gonna pull it whenever it's ready.
I think so. I think
yeah.
we'll go do a poll soon and get an idea of where they're both going.
the fun thing about this is there's 2 barrels. So if one needs to sit a little longer than the other, it can. I guess. That's totally up to you. That's your
Honestly,
that's your
the
playing
most
ground.
fun
but-
we have is barrel pulls. Just seeing where something went. And
I
like,
can't imagine how
like,
fun.
oh
it
my
would be.
god, the rice. We forgot about the
Right.
rice. Let's pull the rice. Holy crap, that's good.
It's like this
Yeah.
has been sitting for 3 years. I didn't even know about it. Yeah.
How long how long are you guys fermenting when you have like so you put the bags of the flour
We mash it, heat it,
right.
get the conversion, cool it. So, any brewers watching, you're going to freak out. We don't temperature control our ferments because
Okay.
we don't have the equipment for that.
Okay.
And we had some very big fermenters in, but they were single wall that we got from a winery. They're all up in Collingwood now
Okay.
because of their size. We actually ferment in IBC totes. So the ferment can take as many days as the temperature that I can get in the room.
Oh wow.
So
Interesting.
sometimes we can have fermentation done in 3 or 4 days. Other times it can take 7, 8, 11. If we're doing
Interesting.
the rum, God, it could take 3 weeks.
Have you been tracking the ones that are taking longer to ferment and
No, I'm afraid to.
I'm just curious if there's a flavor difference.
I would think that if we could get into the right equipment that was temperature controlled fermentation, similar to the stout,
Yeah.
which was, I think we'd have a better line of whiskeys. I think what we're doing with what we have now is turning out this good. Wait till we get the proper fermentation.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, because like all the Scottish distilleries are like, oh, it's a long fermentation process, and they swear by these long fermentation
Yeah.
processes that like apparently make such a difference in
Even
the
when
whiskey.
they make a mistake, they're
Yeah.
like, let's just market this as
Yeah.
something that's better than what we normally do.
Yeah.
It's funny is I had a company approach me about enzymes and yeast and whatnot, and apparently they've got a yeast made out of, I believe, Italy, that the Scottish distillers are using that can deal with higher gravity faster.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
can go up to 15% washes and be done in 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
So I tried this yeast,
Yeah.
and one thing I can say is it definitely made a difference, but it really made a difference in the smell in the air.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And not a positive way?
Um,
It doesn't sound like it's...
Wasn't terribly positive, but I won't judge the spirit till I distill it.
Okay.
But I think everyone's looking for the advantage, and I think all that folklore about, it's got to be done longer, and there was a dent in the still, we have to make the same dent back again in the next
Right,
one. I think
yeah.
it's all just marketing bullshit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I know, like we were talking about the age of barrels, and I don't think any distiller takes a standard barrel, sets it down, and goes, "This one's good for 60 years."
Right.
No.
Right.
If he walks by it in 3 years, they pull and it's good. If I pull that rice and go, "Man, that's good now,"
Yeah.
I'm selling it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I can get revenue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nobody goes, "Oh, that's going to be 60 years." No.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I mean, it depends on, there's so many factors. Like, there's certain companies, they started 50 years ago, they were able to produce 3,000 barrels a year. There's no way they could put out that much whiskey in 3 years, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
No, and I think the secondary market of the blenders and the bottling companies, and I think that's actually something in a bit of a microwave coming into Canada. Got a few small guys that are trying to create brands, and I've actually been contacted by somebody from the UK who's a Canadian, went over there in the 80s, opened up several brands. He was selling Scotch in Canada, went over there, decided to do his own thing, and he's actually opening up excise warehouses in Chatham, Kent.
Okay.
And and that's what he does. He blends. He does have a distillery in the UK now, but he's basically a bottler. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that coming into Canada. And I think that would be good for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Because then at least you're selling your product by like the wholesale price or whatever, and then you can get rid of a little bit more at
To
a time.
be honest, I would rather sell barrels of whiskey or totes of whiskey than bottles of whiskey, because I would at least know where my money's coming from
Right.
and make more quicker.
Yeah.
And you
Totally.
do like really cool custom distilling as well, right? If a client came to you,
Oh, yeah.
like Whiskey in the Six, and be like, "I want to do some concoction," you'll do it for them.
Yeah, I've got Rob. I've got another group of bloggers from northern Alberta, doing something with them. I've got another gentleman from Ontario who's asked me if he brought me a barrel, if I could put one of my single malts in to finish it and do it through him.
Okay.
I've got 3 or 4 more that have just been in discussion.
Yeah.
And then there's another gentleman, I think we spoke about him, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend Kevin.
Yeah, your friend
Okay.
Kevin.
Yeah.
He picked
Yeah.
up a couple barrels from Stillwaters and he's rebarreling at our place. And
Very
we're
cool.
going to be bottling for Kevin as well.
Yeah, he's on Instagram now as Spirit of Us, right?
Spirit
Yep,
Forest.
we'll throw
Spirit for Us.
Spirits for Us. We'll throw it up with the link
Yeah.
in the description.
Yeah.
Really kind of cool, right? Because like, let's say you have like a whiskey club, of 20 guys or whatever, and you all want to throw in some money and do a custom barrel. Like, what a better way to do that than with you guys, right? Really kind of.
Everybody, please come to us. We
Yeah.
love this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
mean-
and so you should. Because what's cool about you guys is, like you said earlier, you kind of hinted to it. People come to you with an idea, you're like, yeah, I'll try it.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're like your innovation and your willingness to like see these things through it's really cool, and it's commendable because there's not a lot in the industry like that.
Well, no, and we're lucky that we're small and we're broke, so we can do things like this. I think once you get rolling into a program, like if you're the size of Highwood or somebody like that, you don't have time for innovation.
Right.
I think the best innovation coming out of any big Canadian distillery is Don Livermore. And I think he probably has to fight tooth and nail to get his
Right.
innovation out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, looking back to Canadian whiskey, I think there was some really great stuff in the 60s and 70s, and then I think it all became very much the same, much like, hey, it's marketing, it's sales. We're moving a lot of Crown Royal. Why do we need to change?
Exactly.
Moving a lot of CC. Like at
Yeah.
one point, it was the number 1 whiskey in the U.S., I believe.
Yeah.
So what's the need for innovation? And then 40 Creek came along.
Right.
And then, I think you saw some stuff out of Wiser's that was becoming pretty cool. And like, one thing I don't do is I don't crap on the big guys because I understand why they're doing what they're doing. But I also like the fact that we might be forcing them to step their game up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
And then that forces us to step ours up.
Yeah. And like, it seems to me like you guys aren't afraid of making a mistake, and you'll take risks and you'll do things that are outside the box, like distilling rice, which I don't think anyone else does.
I don't know anyone that does it.
So I did find there's a Japanese American woman, and I can't remember her name for the life of me, who did go to Japan and start distilling rice, and it did make it into Whiskey Magazine, I believe.
Okay.
And I think it was doing quite well and getting a lot of accolades.
Yeah.
And I think there is a precedent for the rice.
Yeah, I like it a lot, obviously.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And yeah, like we've talked about how Canadian whiskey is becoming redefined, and like
Yes.
it's different than the big brands putting out a bunch of like corn and rye mixes that are good for mixing with soft drinks and whatever else. But now we're like kind of redefining what Canadian whiskey is,
Yes.
and the single malt trend is going crazy in North America and Canada and the U.S. And super like exciting because like for whiskey enthusiasts like us not to represent our own country's whiskey because it's not that good or it's for mixing is disheartening.
It is.
you know?
Absolutely.
And now we can have stuff super interesting. It's like it competes globally with other interesting whiskeys around the world.
Yeah, you guys have won some awards too, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've taken. I believe our previous cast strength rye took, or the one actually before the last one took best new whiskey in Canada. Scorn took best corn in Canada.
There you go.
We've laid more Scorn down. So
Scorn's cool.
yeah,
It's a cool concept.
It was cool. The problem is malting corn is expensive, and the malt actually won't convert itself. Believe it or not, if you malt corn and you don't use enzymes, you won't get conversion.
Okay.
Oh wow,
It doesn't have enough power. So,
interesting.
but the flavor, we loved it. And my straight corns are completely different from malted corn.
Is corn is often, like, even regular corn is probably somewhat difficult, isn't it? Isn't that why bourbon went the route that it went? They adding a little bit of malted barley to each.
If you don't add the enzyme, you don't get the conversion. It's
Okay.
impossible. So they put the barley in the malted barley because malted barley has such power
Right.
to conversion. To convert that 5% barley will convert 95% corn.
Right.
100% corn won't convert corn.
Okay.
So you always have to see that barley in unless you're going to use a commercial enzyme.
Right.
Now, we went with commercial enzymes early on because we realized that we didn't 100% know what we were doing.
Okay.
So instead of making the mistakes, we went with the enzymes, and what we found was it still works.
Right.
We get really good conversions, so we stuck with it, and we think that's the reason our rye tastes like it does, because I ended up finding some high heat alpha amylase and went with those, and then we got that rye flavor.
Okay.
And we stuck with that. Now, whether that's right or not, I don't know. But if it's working,
Yeah. Well, I mean, define right. It tastes good. So I don't think it's a problem.
And it's right now. It's the favorite whiskey I have. I do love the rice.
Yeah. I think the rice is really
still-
cool.
I
Yeah.
still go to the rye.
The rye is excellent. The rye at cask strength, like I said earlier, it doesn't drink cask strength. 63%. You would think, man, this is going to be hot. It's not even close. So,
Yeah, and I think I would echo all of that. I think for me, tasting these three, they're all really, really good. The rice, super interesting.
yeah.
But the rye, I would stack this up with any Canadian rye right now.
Yeah, it's up there for sure. It is
100%.
definitely.
This
it
will
is
compete with the best of the Lot 40 cask strengths. It will compete with Alberta Premiums, 100%
cask
rye,
strengths,
cask
yeah.
strength rye.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And you guys, so right now, let's say, okay, in your distillery, I guess the next question, someone that really likes that is, will I be able to get this next year and the year after and the year after? Like, what's your rye storage like at the moment?
So we've actually sold off some of our rye casks to up and coming distillers, and we've actually sold one cask to a Swedish whiskey club.
Okay, cool.
They've actually had us hold it for one more year, and this year we're going to actually be sending it over to them in bulk.
Okay.
So we do have rye coming. It's just been a little chopped down.
Right. A little further away than.
A little further away, but this cask is still available. There's one bottle of the previous cask still available.
Interesting.
Just one. And we put one aside for my grandson. So I don't know if you remember that story. This guy bought his son a Macallan 18 every year.
Yeah, I do.
So Brandon had a son last year, Don Michael. So we've given him our cask strength rye for his birth, and then he got a Two Brewers for his first birthday.
Cool.
And so every year we're going to get him a Canadian whiskey of what we think is good.
What a great family to be a part
I
of.
know, right? That's so cool.
But he can't drink them.
Right.
Nope, they're for collection only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buy a house when he's
Yeah.
25 years old.
Not in Canada.
Somewhere.
Maybe
never know.
somewhere he can buy
Somewhere.
a house.
You never know. You never know.
And hopefully he'll be the future distiller for Last Straw.
That's it.
Or one of my granddaughters.
Or that.
There you go.
Yeah. That's the way the industry is trending. They say that women have more taste receptors in their palate than men.
About
Apparently.
15% more or 20% more sensitive
Yeah.
by design, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let them all know that they have an opportunity to be the blenders or distillers at Last Straw.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Lord knows there's lots of them.
Well, very impressed with all of these. Love the innovation of different things in Canada, and you guys are part of that. And bringing Canada onto the map
Absolutely.
with very interesting and delicious whiskey.
We're gonna leave, the distillery website and information in the description for sure. But if there's anything that you wanted to share, upcoming things that you're excited about that you think other people would be excited about.
I think there's been we've got a lot of focus on what the work we're doing up in Collingwood. We're trying to build that whiskey program up there. That's really been our main focus. We're doing some other work, of course, in the small distillery. So all of the regenerative work, small farm, buying directly. We're doing that in the small scale. So similar to what we're doing here, but our plan in the bigger distillery is to mimic what we're doing here, just on a larger scale.
Right.
So we're focused on that. That's about all I can say.
Yeah.
If anybody wants a cask of whiskey, hey, call us. We'd love to lay a bunch down for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like if you have a whiskey group out there and you want to do a cool project, definitely look into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely look into it because that's a really cool thing. You guys can brainstorm about what you want it to look like, and you'll make it happen for them. Really cool.
And I think it's just really cool being part of the Canadian whiskey journey right now because, getting out to Calgary, seeing the guys out there, seeing what they're doing in Alberta, seeing what the guys in BC are doing, in Quebec, New Brunswick, there's a lot of really cool distilleries coming together, doing really good stuff. And I think the Canadian whiskey is going to have that push that, the Scottish whiskey's got for years, the Irish whiskey's got the bourbons. I think it's our turn, and I think it's everybody has a chance at it. And I think if we can get more attention going, the better.
Yeah.
And I think things like what you guys are doing is awesome. Like, you have no idea how much this helps us.
Well, it's our pleasure. And this is...
When the whiskey's good, it's easy.
Exactly. Yeah. It makes our job easier. We've been, honestly, since I've started Whiskey in the Six, Jeremy started Sipper Social Club, we've always talked about this kind of stuff. We started the Whisky Rant. We've been dying for Canadian representation to prove, because we were just always so tired of hearing, that 9.09% rule, and everybody's so tired of hearing it. It's nice to see companies like yours and some others out there in Canada right now that are doing it the right way, doing it well, and this is the product.
And I think there's a lot of us doing it. Listen, there's the big names, there's the Shelter Points that are doing an awesome job, Two Brewers, Okanagan, could name a ton of them. But I think you're going to see, if you go to the small places, because I've got some samples from other guys, there's a lot of really cool ideas happening. Whether they're all home runs or not, they're not all going to be home runs.
Right.
Yeah.
But people are learning, and there's interesting stuff coming, and I think if we can get more attention to those.
Yep.
The problem is, especially with the economy right now, we've noticed a massive downturn.
Right.
And it's hard to keep the doors open if you can't get the product out, and you can't get the product in the LCBO shelves. So, and if you could, you'd pay it all in tax anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the more we can get attention to the distillers, I think it'll help and bring everybody up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're looking for a down point on the interest this month, I think they're saying.
Here's hoping. I got a mortgage coming.
Yeah.
Link in the description down below. Check out Last Straw. Have a look. Lots of cool stuff. Not just whiskeys as well, but you guys have a huge portfolio of other spirits as well on the website, so check it out. And if you want to get a whole cask, inquire.
Definitely get one of each of these because they're excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
I should have brought more.
Yeah. Don, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for
Cheers.
watching. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.